Coming up on this week of FRC Round Up, we are going to be taking a look at the current timeout rule and a possible solution, cargo sensing scoring issues noticed at week one, and the overall strategy of week one and how it might evolve, and a little bit of a back and forth discussion on if 1678 the Citrus Circus currently are the fastest traversal climber in the world, and currently is the word that I'm going to use there. So again, all of this and more coming up on this edition of FRC Roundup.
Your destination for first content, updates, and gaming.
Welcome to the fun.
First Updates Now is supported by Stryker Careers. First alumni and mentors are making Stryker a top priority for their internships and careers. That's because Stryker knows that those in First are the leaders and innovators of tomorrow. If you want to help make the world a better place by creating life-saving medical devices and technology, get started at careers.stryker.com.
If you're not familiar with me, my name is Nick Mathis, but I go by Nick Jr. on Fun. If you know why I'm called Nick Jr. And I'm from the First and Michigan region. I was on Team 4130 and graduated in 2018, and am the head coach, or was the head coach of FRC Team 4130 in 2019, 2020, and 2021, and have stepped back this year. So I'm actually teamless for the 2022 season. If you're thinking about doing it, do not recommend it. Stick with your team. But today on the inaugural show of FRC Roundup, we have three guests who are more versed in the FRC community. I'm going to actually bring each one of them on to introduce themselves, but we have Connor McBride from Team 166, Tausif Afrez who's an alumni of FRC 5431 and a new fun host, and Michael Ray, who is the drive coach of Team 6800. Connor, we'll go ahead with you. Just give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Connor McBride. I am the drive coach and lead design mentor on Team 166 Chop Shop in New Hampshire. I'm a 2016 alum of 166. This is my 10th year in FRC, MCGA extraordinaire, mechanical engineer by day. Love designing robots at night. Happy to be on the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Connor. Michael, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm Michael Ray. Nice to meet everyone. So I was on Team 27 from 2009, 2013. So I've been doing this for about 13 years now. Moved to Texas. Yeah, I was back in Michigan for a long time. Moved down to Texas in 2016 as a software engineer. I work here in Austin and started Team 6800. So we're a 5-year team now. It's exhausting being a head coach, but it's a lot of fun. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. And Tausif, let's round us out.
So yeah, my name is Tausif Afrez. I'm an new alumni from 5431, just graduated in 2020 or 2021, I guess, and just have been part of the team since the 2018 season. So it kind of sucked that Infinite Research was canceled because that was my junior year, but it is what it is. Was just taught electronics and went from there. Still in contact with 5431 and been helping them for a bit.
Awesome. It is what it is, right? That's been the motto the past couple of years. But
yeah.
So before we jump into our main topics, I do want to give a giant congratulations to one of our guests here, Michael, and his team for going 18-0 at Dripping Springs and winning the entire event. So congrats to you, Michael. I know that first one's a big one, and
Yeah.
I'm sure your team's ecstatic and continue to push through the rest of the year.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So topic one, we're going to get a little spicy here. I think one of the main things, if you're a follower of Chief Delphi, which I'm assuming, a decent amount of you are, but the timeout rule and it being pretty stinky, I guess is the word I'm going to use. If you're not super well versed in the FRC community and you're kind of new, the window for when you can call a timeout after specific matches and looking at that, to be honest with you, isn't realistic. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's not realistic, especially this year. And essentially, you have 2 minutes from when you have 2 minutes from when the lights turn green on the field to be able to call your timeout if you need it. So I know that one post that was posted on Chief Delphi, especially with the hanger this year, if you're hanging on the traversal, majority of those robots are not even getting off that bar in the 2 minutes to be able to assess any damage they might have. And to be honest with you, I've been an extreme, what's the word to use? I have not been a fan of this rule since it happened. kind of screwed my team out of a quarter or semifinalist appearance in 2016. But yeah, that's kind of my stance on it, and we're going to kind of go around and get everybody's stance on it and talk about a possible solution here. So Connor, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, I'm not really excited about, well, I'm not really happy that this is still a thing. I like to be able to use it and actually get the full allotted time out of it and not just gain like an extra 2 minutes. My team fell victim to this in the 2020 season at Northern Connecticut, week 1. We had a drive shaft pop out of our robot, but we didn't necessarily know exactly that until we were able to get it off the field. Probably about a minute and a half until the lights turned green, and it was we were able to get the card in within seconds. But like we had to rush to be able to get that thing back in, and like we were going to be going into a tiebreaker match in the semifinals. That was just not fun. I know Wyndham Wind Up this past weekend at Granite State, they fell victim to this between finals 1 and finals 2. They knew that they were going to be able to fix it, but they weren't able to be able to really look at anything until they got their robot off the field, and they just ran out of time and could have used that extra 2-3 minutes that you would have gotten if you were able to use the full card. Overall, just terrible. I wish we're probably not going to see a change this year. I think we can all agree on that. But hopefully we'll be able to see some change for future seasons and get this all squared away.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing that you point out that's really important too is like in 2020 when you brought it up about how like you were rushing to it. And, if we're using a timeout to try and solve an issue, possibly, why are we forcing teams to rush and possibly cause another issue of somebody maybe tripping or causing a safety issue in that sense? It's no secret that the FRC field is not the most safe thing in the world. We see people tripping all the time over the field border and whatnot. So that's kind of just my opinion on it. Michael is a current FRC head coach, and being in the stress of that, I mean, robots break. There's no getting around it. What do you think about this overall rule, and what could possibly be changed about it?
Yeah, it's funny that we have this conversation because yesterday while I was at Dripping Springs, 55-72, we played against them in the finals. They had some issues between with a climber after semifinal 2. And I'd also like to bring up, like, between semis and finals, some teams are bringing their pit to like the venue, like next to the field. And so like after 55-72 completed their match, like they're hanging on the traversal bar and they're trying to get their pit on the field. They're trying to like prepare for their next match. Like I was kind of walking from the pits to the venue and saw them running back, like just being like frantic. Like, we just finished our match. We got to play again. We don't know if it's broken or not. And we got to move our pit. Like, how are we supposed to do that in 2 minutes? And it's not possible. And like, just having a little bit of a break between semis and finals, first of all, I think would kind of help things, because that last semifinal match is always going to play in the first finals. Between finals 1 and finals 2, somebody's always going to be playing. Every team is going to be playing back to back. We just need to extend that just a little bit longer, because it's just not fun seeing teams kind of frantically just trying to do the best they can. We want a fair fight in finals and semis. Like, we want everyone's robot to be working and all the students to be proud of their performance. And so I think it's critical that this rule gets changed.
Yeah, really, I can't agree more with you. I think one thing to important too is a lot of things, like you said, we see a lot of teams that end up calling timeouts for their opposing alliance, just so that way they're able to compete against them at a high stake. I know that in 2018, when my alliance that I was part of when I was with 4130, we were in the Einstein finals, and unfortunately, Comets had some issues with the robot. Now, and when you're during the closing ceremonies and competing, then we had probably a 20-minute gap, and we still couldn't figure it out. So it's just something like that. And I think it's really important that when you are doing that, you're able to compete against those teams at their best level. You want to beat those teams when they're at full strength. So one thing that I think that was put in the chat too, simply me in they ASAP. Forgive me if you're doing that, but it is extremely confusing for teams that have not really been a part of it before. I think that's a great point to bring up as well. But Tassif, let's round this out. What do you think about this rule?
Yeah, so as far as I can remember, the only time we were in finals was in 2018 at the Plano District event. But having only 6 minutes is clearly not enough. Right, when you have matches in between, like in the regular qualifications, you have plenty of time to fix any issues you might have, unless they're major. But other than that, you're able to fix your issues that you have. But with only 6 minutes and then only able to add like 2 extra minutes, it's not enough time, especially when the timeout starts the second the lights turn green. None of us are really in favor of how the rule is laid out. Um, Reading the Chief Delphi post, I mentioned the person said a 12 minutes would be fine, which I agree. A regular timeout coupon, when given to the referee, is 6 minutes. So being able to add that to the regular timeout between finals would be really beneficial, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think one thing to point out too, like you said, is and Michael said that as well, is the 6 minutes between forget the fixing robots and whatnot. The 6 minutes between finals one and finals two is, I mean, nearly not enough, especially if we're going to get to the point where there's eventually going to be two robots in the traversal. I think that's inevitable, and possibly even three, depending on how we look at it. Um, it's going to take 5 minutes to get those robots off of the
Yeah.
traversal bar. There's no way around it. It's going to be very similar to 2013, and it takes a while to get those robots off of that, and the hangar is not the most safe thing in the world. I mean, when you're climbing down under bars and moving it, I was in FTAA this weekend and I hit my head on the bar probably 2 or 3 times, and I wasn't even trying to get a robot off there. So I can only imagine, trying to coordinate getting all of those teams and getting those three, robots off. It's just not going to be enough time. So
Yeah.
It'll
To
be
add on to
extremely
that too,
congested.
it's kind of like funny. Like with all these swerve drives coming around too, it's actually kind of harder to move a swerve drive robot on the field carpet because a lot of the wheels are sometimes like not angled straight. So we noticed this year taking our robot off of the hanger, putting it on the ground, it's really hard to push it if your wheels are in like diamond formation. And so
for
it's
sure.
extremely difficult to get your robot out of the hanger zone without hitting heads, without running into other robots and like trying to lift it and bend over at the same time. So yeah, it takes a long time to get those robots out of the hanger zone.
And
Yep.
we think that it's hard right now in week one when there are just only a few teams climbing.
Exactly.
Think about when we get to like district champs in Houston, where you're going to see double traversal and a high bar. Like that's going to take forever to be able to get everyone off the field and all the cycle for the next match. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's not even like 2020 where we had the shield generator. Like there was space there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was not easy getting robots off of it, but there was space, so it was easy to do. Where there's just, I mean, we're in like what is it, like a 8 foot by 7 foot square-ish, somewhere around there. It's not a large area, so I think that's going to be interesting. But we're actually going to go ahead and move on to the next topic. Didn't mean to cut you off, Connor, if you wanted to
No, it's
add
all
something really
good.
quick, but
It's just smaller than your pit. So
yeah, so I mean it's not large, but
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna go ahead and jump to the next topic here on FRC Roundup, and we're gonna be taking a look at cargo sensing scoring issues that we're seeing across the country over this week. I stated I was personally at Detroit, in Michigan, and we did the sensors were not very cooperative with us, if I'm being honest here. And one thing that I think is really important to bring up too is it's never a bad thing to have another team member counting how many balls just to ensure that it's being scored correctly. But just for context, we as in the Detroit volunteer group had calibrated the sensors Thursday, had calibrated them again Friday morning, and actually had to stop halfway through Friday for about an hour and a half after communication with HQ to recalibrate the entire sensors, because we were just seeing too many score mismatches with the cargo being counted incorrectly, and we just didn't want it to get to the point where it was possibly determining the outcome of a match and that thing. So I know that Tausif, you were kind of focusing on Waco, and Waco actually ended up manually scoring at the beginning of the event. So Tausif, kind of take us through that.
Yeah, so I was just watching the Waco event, and within a few couple of matches in, they just announced saying, so the sensor's broken and they're not able to replace it. So they have to manually count the cargo that goes in after every match. So it took a while, like a few extra minutes, to actually get the final score. They'll give the estimate and what the FMS score says, but they had to get the accurate score in before they showed the actual score. And that delayed the event entirely. They were supposed to end the event on Friday around qualification match 60, if I'm not mistaken. Instead, they ended around 50. And that delayed the entire event on Saturday until like 2 extra hours, if I'm not mistaken. But it delayed the match in the entire competition. And it was a hassle. From talking to a couple of my former teammates, it wasn't nice.
Yeah, and I'm to be honest with you, and I forgot to leave this out too, but Detroit was running 3 hours behind. On top of the usual hour-ish that you're behind because teams, haven't been competing, so everybody's got their firewalls on. Not everybody's got their static IP set up correctly. So, kind of looking into that, you're usually about an hour behind week one, anyhow. Apparently not at Calvin because they decided to move their schedule up, and Tyler was there, but yeah, we ended up being about 3 hours behind and didn't get out of there till about 9 o'clock on Friday. So, Michael, Dripping Springs, do you guys have any issues that you noticed and maybe some solutions that your team used to keep track of it?
Yeah. So same type of deal at Dripping Springs. Dripping Springs was running quite behind. And this isn't like the FTA's fault or field reset at all. They're
Yeah,
working
absolutely.
super hard. I'd like to point that out that they did a fantastic job. But FMS is just struggling with all of these. I mean, you got at least 8 sensors in the middle of the field all trying to communicate status back to the FMS. It's just not a good time. So fortunately for us, we saw what was going on at Dripping Springs a day ahead at Waco a day ahead, since Waco was a Friday, Saturday, and our tournament was a Saturday, Sunday. So I already knew that there was potentially going to be issues with the scoring. So I actually had our human player start off with like a whiteboard and then to a mechanical clicker, just keeping track of cargo scored for our alliance, just so that we knew how many cargo was actually being hit for that cargo RP. And I know a bunch of people on Chief were saying the same thing of how they had their coaches, their drivers, human players, whoever it was on the field, actually keeping track so that you knew exactly what your status was. Because we're just right now, confidence level in FMS and scoring is not high.
Yeah, for sure, and like rightfully so too. I mean, it's going to take first a little bit just to get FMS kind of ironed out, and I'm sure we'll see this get significantly better as we move on. But one thing to point in chat that I didn't know about from Osis Tosis, forgive me if I pronounced that wrong, that Kettering also manually scored all of Elim. So I guess Connor, to you, do we think this is going to be a common thing? Next week, kind of moving in. And obviously, I hope that we're not able, or we don't have to do this moving forward. But do we possibly think that it's going to be common for events to start manually scoring on top of that for like high quality matches such as the elimination rounds?
I certainly hope not. Based on prior years, whenever there's a sensor thing, they typically get figured out relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So like I know it's not technically a sensor, but in 2018 for Power Up, in the early stages of the competition season, remember the LEDs were actually around the
Yep.
the scale plates, and then they moved the LEDs into the actual like tower of the scale, because teams were like ramming their elevators up into it, breaking the LEDs and whatnot, and that was causing major field delay. And we need to keep in mind, guys, this is week one.
Exactly.
Even though at the official week 0 that's hosted by First is there to be able to help work out some kinks, they're obviously not going to get everything. I mean, we are human, and at the end of the day, it is what it is. But I'm sure First will be able to figure this out. Now, I know that some events didn't have spares of the sensors for the photo gates, and if I'm correct, the photo gates are the exact same sensor that they used in Infinite Recharge. So First has experience with them. So I think they'll get this figured out, but it might take a little bit of time.
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree. Thanks for all your guys' input on that. But before we get into our last discussion topic, we're going to go ahead and bring on our producer Tyler to talk about Striker for those watching live to start our and for those watching live to start our giveaway from the Thrifty Bot. Tyler, what do you got for us?
Yeah, thanks, Nick Jr. As mentioned, yep, we do have a giveaway to do. But before we do that, let's make some money on our end and thank our friends at Striker Careers. for their fantastic support that they have. Hey, if you're looking for all different types of careers, I just typed in engineering, for example. Go ahead to careers.stryker.com. 881 positions available in engineering right now at Stryker all around the world. So probably not Antarctica, but you can try and find out. Go ahead and type it in and see if they have it. You never know. So, by the way, if you are looking for an internship, Stryker is looking for interns for the next season. They do cover your housing with a housing stipend as well, too, which is pretty sweet as well. You'll see work flexibility they have on their site as well. Some are on-site, some are hybrid, some are fully remote or field-based as well. So if you want to work for a company that truly supports those being in first and is a leading medical manufacturer technology company, you want to do something cool, save some lives, build the technology tomorrow. Check out careers.stryker.com. And let's go ahead and start our giveaway for today. Thanks a lot to our friends at the Thrifty Bot, who's giving away a $25 gift card. So if you're interested in winning that, go ahead and check out all the cool stuff. Hopefully you know about Thrifty Bot by now. They've been really making some waves, especially this last year with their climbing kit that they've had, their telescoping tube kit. You might know them for their amazing vectored intake wheels that they're having as well. Go ahead and type Thrifty in chat. That's your opportunity to win. We're going to draw near the end of the show, so probably about 10, 15 minutes, something like that. But Thrifty is your keyword. Type that in chat right now for a chance to win a $25 gift card from the Thrifty Bot.
Great. Thanks, Tyler. And yeah, cannot say enough about Stryker and their internship program. I've interviewed twice with them now, and although it hasn't worked out, the experience has been great. And Corey Walters over there does a great job in trying to get students in first internship. So if you're interested, please, please, please apply. Moving on to our final topic, which is definitely going to bring some tea into here, as I'll call it. And what I'm going to start off with is 1678 Citrus Circuits, the fastest climb that we have seen in the entire world up to this point. I was able to catch Humi. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong, but I was able to catch the regional that 1678 was at. And that climb is insane. There's no other good way to put it. It is very fast, and I know Tausif is going to disagree with me here with some of his friends in Texas. So we'll go ahead and start with him, and then move to Connor, and Michael will be able to round us off here.
Yeah, so I disagree, and I feel like 3310 Blackhawk Robotics had a faster climb. It definitely does also depend on your lineup and your deployment. But 3310, the second they started deploying, was able to make it from mid-rung all the way to traversal in like less than 6 seconds from my count. And it seemed pretty accurate. Skipping the high bar is, in my opinion, a good strategy, especially if you're able to go as fast as they were able to. Looking at 1678, they had to go through every single bar. It looks like they could possibly make a mistake from what their bot design is. They have 2 arms. One arm connects to one bar, and then the other arm connects to another bar, and they switch. But with 3310, they have 2 hooks, mid bar, and then 2 hooks to the high bar. So they have hooks to protect them from falling, and instead of 1678 having just individual hooks switching between back and forth.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think if you include lineup time, I think 3310 is easily the fastest that we saw in week 1. Now, what I was referencing and why I argued that is I think I was going off of when they actually touched the bar, and I think 3310 and 1678 are very close in that. But I was able to just catch 1678 a little bit more. Thank you, whoever's from the Copioli family in the chat saying, no, I love you guys, shouting out your team. I'm assuming it's Paul or Gio, but thanks for whoever's doing that for sure. But Connor, you want to bring up somebody from the New England district that thinks is gonna trump this coming next week. What do you got?
Yeah, and Nick, before I get there, I was actually just about to mention that one of the members from the Copioli clan saying no. Currently 3310 in my opinion, has the fastest climb until it's probably going to get beaten this weekend at Pine Tree from Team 125, the Neutrons. We saw them competing at week 0. They didn't have an automated climb at that point. You can see that in the fun video on our YouTube channel for the Behind the Glass. and also in the Behind the Bumpers interview, but they submitted for the fun premiere night of the automated climb that's hitting at like 3 seconds right now. And I can only imagine that's going to get faster knowing Brando. There's even a chance that could get beaten by someone else. It's going to be very, very hard, but man, it's so cool to see fast climbers, because you can really just kind of sit down on the field for a little bit longer, shoot more cargo into the hub and get more points, hopefully beat out your other alliance. So that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing you point up to is, so neutrons, I think, are clocking at like 3.6 right now, Connor, somewhere around there.
Something like that.
How much faster can it get, right? I mean, we obviously haven't seen 254. We haven't seen 1323, as well as some other great teams we haven't seen yet. I'm really curious to see, because obviously I think one of the neat things about 125, 3.22, Tyler's got it on the screen here. One thing that's really important too is just the difference in the climbs, right? 125 is skipping the mid rung and going from the I'm skipping the high rung, I'm sorry, going from the mid to the traversal. So I think that's really important too, and I'm really curious to see kind of where we go from this after week 1. Michael, you kind of have a rebuttal to all of this. I'd love to hear what you say moving on here.
Yeah, so we kind of had a little bit of a pre-discussion as we were preparing for this call, and my comment was, does it even matter? We're talking like 3 to 5 seconds for these extremely like fast climbs, and the difference between like a 3 and 5 second climb and like a normal robot's like 15-second climb is 10 seconds, and 10 seconds is like maybe a cycle's worth, which is worth 4 points. So for all of you listening at home and going like, oh, I want to get a climb to be like, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, and you're sitting at like a 20, 30-second climb right now, like you're missing out on 8 points. So it's really just not worth it, in my opinion. Like, unless you're at the top tier of teams. I know I'm getting head shaken from Connor. I love it. Unless you're at like an extremely top tier team, I would just urge you not to go like completely disassembling your comp bot and like just ruining your entire season because you want a 3-second climb. Because like if you can maybe focus on driver practice or just like any sort of automation from your current system to eke out those 4 extra points, 8 extra points, then I mean that's worth more, in my opinion, than trying to eke out these 3 seconds. Now, disclaimer, I really do think these 3.2 second, 4 second climbs are incredible. I love watching them. Hopefully we'll be seeing 3310s climb at states and get to experience that. So yeah, I do not want to put down all these really, really high end climbers. I just wanted to reiterate, careful on what you're trying to revamp after like one of your regionals or districts, now that there's no bag rule.
Just kind of going off of that.
Yeah, really.
Copioli said, I do agree that after 5 to 6 seconds, it legitimately doesn't matter. He said that in chat. I agree. But like when you're going from like, all right, is it going to be like a 5-second climb or a 10-second climb? That 5 to 10 second range can really mean the whole difference. And the first thing when I think about that is Einstein 2016 finals match 3. They lost on a tiebreaker. So 1-2 points that it does matter eventually at some point in the season,
right?
Or early on. Right now, it's really not. I mean, you hardly ever see tiebreakers, and even right now, you don't see a whole lot of matches being within like 3 to 6 point range. It's more so blowouts to relatively close. But I don't know, I said this earlier in the show. Once we start getting to like week 6 district champs in Houston, I think we'll start to see those fast climbers really starting to make a difference.
Hey guys, not to jump in, but not necessarily a fast climb, but one of the events that I covered, I think it was the Izmir Turkey Regional, actually had 2 ties in the semifinals already happen, and it was broken then by traversal climbs. So it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
I also feel like if you have a faster climb and you guarantee that you have a fast climb, you're able to shoot more cargo balls into the hub to get those extra points. If you're a little bit behind, get those extra cargo points in and then climb. It could also make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you guys in that it doesn't make a difference. Like, it definitely does. it was more like, even for my own team, like they see 3310 and they're like, that's so cool, or 1678. It's like, I want to do that. It's like, no, don't do that. You got a 10-second, 11-second climber already. Like the extra 4 seconds you're gonna get is just not worth a redesign.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think one thing to point out too, from chat is that, and I really think this is what's going to happen is your traversal climb is really going to be limited on whoever's climbing your high rung at MSC and Week 7 champs and championships, because if they can climb in 2 seconds, you're able to push it and push it. But if it takes them, maybe 10 to 12 seconds, and you really need those points, you're gonna have to stop scoring and go ahead and pull up and get that traversal to guarantee that you have those points. So before we wrap up, we're going to go ahead and bring our producer Tyler back on to draw for our giveaway from the Thrifty Bot.
Yeah, once again, a $25 gift card from our friends at the Thrifty Bot. So if you're interested in winning this is your last chance. Again, hey, don't forget, tomorrow, if you're watching this live, or on Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, we do have our FRC Pick'em Fantasy Show that is kicking off. The first time we're doing that. And if you haven't played yet on the Pick'em, it is completely free. Make sure you check that out on our Discord. You can pick 3 different events a week. We're going to have more later on. Draft your teams with 200 fake dollars and see how you do with live results. So make sure you check that out. And at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, FRC Top 25 is back. Make sure you check it out on there as well. Of course, all these backed up to YouTube. Winner of the giveaway is going to be... I hate Olek. I don't know who Olek is, but apparently this person hates him. So congratulations. This is a digital gift card. So all I need is your email for this, by the way. So shoot me your email for that. We'll get Ryan over at the Thrifty Bot to send that over to you. And thanks a lot to the Thrifty Bot and all of our suppliers who are doing giveaways. We have a whole bunch during our live shows this season. So make sure you tune in live if you're interested in winning some cool giveaways.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. And yeah, thanks to the Thrifty Bot. Ryan's really got it going thrifty over there. I know that 4130 used a ton of parts in 2020 and is continuing to use them for that price. So, but just wanted to give a quick thanks to Tausif, Michael, and Connor for joining the inaugural show of FRC Round Up. And just wanted to give thanks for taking a look at detail. I think it's nice that we were able to kind of go back and forth and hash a couple things out on the topics that were brought up today. But thanks again for tuning into FRC Roundup, to the fun community. Special thanks to those of you who clicked that follow button or stepped up to help fund with a Twitch subscription or donation. Your support really helps us, the fun crew, to continue to make great content. Don't forget that you can watch the FRC Roundup archive at youtube.com/first updates now and watch live Mondays after FRC recap during the competition season. Thanks again to all of our guests for being on. And on behalf of our producer, Tyler, and all of our fun correspondents, I'm Nick Jr., and thanks for watching, and good luck to all the teams competing in Week 2 and beyond. See you next week after FRC recap for FRC Roundup.
Thanks to Stryker Careers for their support in this video. First alumni and mentors are making Stryker a top priority for their internships and careers. That's because Stryker knows that those in first are the leaders and innovators of tomorrow. If you want to help make the world a better place by creating life-saving medical devices and technology, get started at careers.stryker.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow and check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.